Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a January recent reads. So when I talked about in my why I quit YouTube and why I came back to it, which I will put up here and in the description box below if you're interested in the details of that. Some people have asked in the comments on other videos. I really wanted to incorporate, I think I mentioned that I really wanted to incorporate my love of reading, and that really wasn't anything that was in my on my feed before, like on my channel. And I'm a huge reader. I read like 50 to 60 books on average a year, and so it's like part of my everyday life. And if I for some reason go like 4 days without start reading, I'm like, it doesn't feel right. So it's a huge part of my life. So I thought it only makes sense to talk about it here. So it's only February right now, so I figured it wouldn't be too late to start recent reads for this year. So I'm doing a little catch up today with January's recent reads, and then February's will be coming in the beginning of March. And it's funny to talk about January reads right now because in LA it's 85 degrees today. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it, don't get me wrong, but it does feel a little strange to be talking about reads in January when it's this beautiful weather outside. But so I'm just going to catch up pretty quickly with January and February, and then I'll just be doing it regularly, hopefully, and maybe more book content to come if you guys like this. So yes, let's start with what I read in January. So January started off not a great reading month for me. There were 2 books that I did not finish, and I didn't include them here, but let me know if in the future if those are something you would like me to include. So there were 2 do not finishes in 1 month, which is kind of rare for me. So I was like, man, this year, 2025 reads are not starting off strong, but it got better, which is always a relief. So the first book I read was actually on audio was Baby X by Peikoff. And I'm just gonna tell you right now, guys, I am horrible at pronouncing names. So apologies to every author that I will ever say their name. If they're even slightly hard to pronounce, I will butcher it. So sorry. Baby X is a sci-fi and thriller novel. I read a lot of sci-fi, but I don't read a lot of thriller because I always feel like the big twist is always a letdown for me, usually. So sometimes that can be a risk, but I really liked the sci-fi plot in this book. So basically it's about not a super far distant future. Basically people can take like hair samples, nail samples, anything like that, and make eggs and sperm from that person's DNA. So it's made it really easy and kind of scary that if you get a hair or some kind of DNA sample, spit, anything like that from like a celebrity or something, you can make an egg or sperm from that person and have a baby biologically with that person. So this has turned into kind of like a black market industry, and celebrities or any kind of person in the public eye is very scared and wary of. So it's become a whole another industry where people protect these people of note, protect their DNA, and make sure that when they go to a restaurant, they don't leave anything behind. Everything's kind of scrubbed, and this is the way some of these people have to live. So I thought that was like a really interesting plot that I haven't seen before. And there's also like a whole underground kind of company that sells these, these DNA samples of like celebrities and stuff, kind of on the black market. So I thought that was a pretty unique idea. So basically that's the premise. And this company called The Vault also will blackmail or extort celebrities. So the celebrity in this story is called Trace Thorn. He's like a musician, and he has been extorted by the Vault in the past. They had to pay like $5 million or something like that to make sure they were going to sell his DNA to maybe like a crazy fan or something. So basically he hires this woman, Ember, she has a company that like she will be with you all the time. And he's going on tour, so he wants her to come with him and make sure that his DNA isn't left behind, so he's not a victim of the Vault again or someone else that wants to collect his DNA. So yeah, so he hires her, and that's where we kind of like start the story. And I thought the twists were very good in this book. And there's a lot of things in this book where people are not what they seem, which I guess, when you have this kind of plot is not surprising, but I didn't foresee where they were going to go with some of these characters. It was a really good audiobook read, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So the next book that I read in January is called Wild Love by Elsie Silver. Cool name, by the way, Elsie Silver. So I think this is the first in a series, and basically it's kind of like an anthology series where each book is a new couple. So then this couple in this book may show up in the other ones. I don't know. I liked it, but I didn't like it enough to like keep reading about the other couples. So this is a romance book with the trope of best friend's little sister. And it, again, like there was a little bit of a trend in the first 2 months of reading. There was a lot of like celebrity boyfriends or like ex-boyfriends that become celebrities, which it was interesting. It must have been a really popular like trope in 2024 because I'm like starting to, like, at the beginning of the year, obviously I'm reading books from last year still. So the book centers around the characters Ford and Rosie. They grew up knowing each other because he was best friends with her brother. And they had a very contemptuous relationship. They sparred a lot verbally and like to tease each other and get each other's nerves. But for him, it was very much more than that. We don't get an impression that really, as kids, it was more than that for her, even though she was intrigued by him. So basically, fast forward to later in life, he has just been named like the world's hottest billionaire, which is like, okay, part of the plot. But yeah, he started this like music app. He sold it, and then he's trying to open a recording studio, setting it up from the ground up in the town where they all lived as kids. So Rosie also is having life changes and has moved back to her hometown. The brother always stayed there. So this throws them back into each other's lives, and of course, things happen. The other part of this plot that I think was actually a little bit more unique and interesting, more so than like just Ford and Rosie's romance, was that Ford has this teenage girl show up at his door saying, "I'm your daughter." And so he has to deal with that and the implications of that and the story around that. I thought the story around that was actually pretty good. I thought the why he may or may not have a daughter made sense, and her story was really good. Their relationship was really sweet, and I liked how it grew. Overall, I thought the plot was a bit contrived, but I think the highlight for it was the relationship between Ford and his daughter. We know from the very beginning that Ford has always carried this torch for Rosie, but I didn't get the impression of why he felt she was so special that they went on and like lived their lives and he always carried this torch for her. It didn't connect with me. So for that reason, I gave Wild Love a 3 out of 5 stars. This is when my 2025 reading really improved. So the next book I read was my first 5-star read of the year, called Husbands and Lovers by Beatriz Williams. And it's a romance and historical fiction with dual timelines. So dual timelines for me, because I do love historical fiction, are very popular in historical fiction because there's always a tie to the present, but then they have like the whole historical fiction plot that runs alongside of it, which usually is good for me, but it can be hit or miss. And so the dual timeline for this one didn't so much do it for me. The more current timeline, which is 2022, is that Mallory has a son, he goes to camp, and he eats a poison mushroom, which has really dire health consequences for him. And because of his health, this kind of throws her into her past, people from her past, like her son's father, and some interesting developments and revelations about her own mother's history and childhood. So that was where most of my attention was, and I thought this part was really well done in the book. The historical timeline was 1951 Cairo, and it was okay. I really felt like this kind of like slowed the book down a bit, and I didn't really feel like it enriched the main story at all. Yeah, I think it distracted from the book a little bit, but the main storyline for me was so effective and so good that it still kept the book at a 5-star read. My favorite character in this book would definitely be like Monk Adams, who is the old boyfriend turned celebrity. Again, we get that in this book. You know, they knew each other as kids, they fell in love, broken heart, and then they meet back up in life, and he is famous for whatever reason. I feel like he was a little bit more multidimensional than some of those characters, and I just liked him as a person. So he was like a standout character for me. So that made Husband Lovers my first 5-star read of the year. And the hits just kept on coming. The next book I read was Slow Dance by Rainbow Rowell. Sorry if again that's wrong. And this is a romance, a second chance romance, which I love second chance romances. It is one of my favorite tropes. And I've read some of her other books, and I really enjoyed them. So this one's, I think, her newest. So I was excited that this was one I hadn't read yet. So this book centers around Shiloh and Carrie, who were really, really good friends in like a threesome of friends with another male friend. And they were like the Three Musketeers all through high school. But Shiloh and Carrie always had this like, little bit deeper emotional friendship. And Carrie goes into the military, into the Navy when he graduates. And so life sends them on different paths. Throughout the next year or so, they do come in and out of each other's lives. They try to like maintain their relationship and their friendship. And some stuff happens, as it does. And later they meet up again and come into their lives again at a high school reunion. And this one is also dual timeline with their current timeline. And then we learn about their friendship and their relationship when they were kids. So I just loved this. I love a good struggle love. I love a struggle love. And this was so good in the way that I feel like they kept always fighting to be friends, to keep their friendship alive, even though it didn't always work, but they always like kept trying, even if they have long bouts of time where they did not speak to each other. I feel like they were always on each other's minds, and they always like fought to have that relationship. So I think it was like, the struggle love I love, and I love their friendship, the underlying friendship that they, above all, tried to maintain. And no matter the complications or the situations that they find themselves in life, because they both have very complicated lives, and trying to mesh those two lives together is complicated in the book in a real way. So I really like that about that. So Slow Dance was a 5-star read. But because of my 2 DNFs, that's all I really read for January. It was a slow start to January, which was, I remember mentioning it to a friend. I was like, oh, my reading has been horrible this year. I've just started 2 books and didn't finish them. But it ended with 2 5-star reads. So it leveled out to where I was really happy about it. And February has been very good to me with the books. So I will be back next time with my February reads. Let me know what you read in January or what you're reading now, because I know this will come out a bit later than beginning of February. It will come at the end of February. So let me know what you're reading right now, what you're liking, what you're excited for, because I love a good book chat. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.